2024 was an interesting year. I think that's it, done. I'm kind of annoying right now. I feel really like top of my game. I think I've had imposter syndrome for quite a while, and now I'm like, oh no, I know what I'm doing.
You know, there's an amazing stat that I think it's 40 or 41% of people trust creators more than their best friends.
The thing I love most about influencer marketing is creators being able to transform their lives through influencer marketing in a way that you can't really see in any other industry. I think there's something so powerful about that, of being able to be yourself on the internet and being paid to be you. I think YouTube is about to have a massive resurgence because the amount of creators that in January have said, I'm going on to YouTube because they saw that TikTok was, disappearing. So I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Hello and welcome to a brand new series of the Purple Goat podcast. Today I'm joined by Charlotte Stavrou, founder of SevenSix agency, accomplished influencer and diversity and inclusion champion. We have a really amazing conversation about her as a creator, her life as a founder of the agency, her journey through 2024 and what that was like for her, and then looking forward into 2025 and what she hopes for both the influencer economy and her agency as well. Really interesting conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. So, without further ado, would you mind just letting everyone at home know who you are, what you do, and I suppose in one line, how 2024 was for you?
Oh gosh, okay. So I'm Charlotte Stavrou. I'm the founder of SevenSix agency, and we're an influencer marketing agency based in London. And we do all things influencer. It's a bit of a 360. So we manage talent, we do influencer campaigns, and then we also work with creators on kind of upskilling them. And we have what I would like to say is like an accelerator program for creators called our Creator Club. So that's what we do. I personally am also a creator. I have been in the content creation world for the last 14 years. So I've seen the journey of content creation and it's been crazy. But 2024 was an interesting year. I think that's it, done. No.
Interesting year.
It was a year for me personally in terms of running my agency. It was a year of highs and lows. And I saw it as, even though we've been around for 6 years this year, I see it as like year one for us, which is quite interesting because we have grown and shrunk as an agency as time's gone on, and we've had slightly different services. But I feel like, I always say when I talk to people about my experience as a founder, I always say I feel like I've just been doing a really long MBA, and I finally graduated in 2024, I feel. So 2024 was a bit epic, and I know it was for the industry quite a stressful year. Budgets were cut, things were a bit uncomfortable, but for me personally, it was a good year.
We often talk about maybe like pulling the training wheels off, or even just like iterating and honing our offering over time because it's evolving, because the industry's evolving and the wants and needs are evolving. Is that kind of what you mean by that? Like, this is now year one because we've found the rhythm of what we want to be and how we want to do it?
Yeah, I think so. I think also on like a personal level, I kind of started the agency without having any business experience. I just knew how to do influencer marketing, which seems like a great idea. But actually a lot of the agencies that we see, performing and, they're the biggest ones, they're people who have no industry experience, but they know how to run a business. So I've come at it differently, and that's made it really hard because I don't know how to, well, I do now, but I didn't know how to run a business. So I feel like by 2024, I figured it out. We had so many amazing opportunities, especially for me to learn. And I feel like now my team is just chef's kiss. I actually am getting, on a weekly basis, people message me to say, oh, I've just met someone in your team and they're amazing. Or I just spoke to someone and they knew your team and they were amazing. And I just feel really excited about that. But yeah, I feel like I'm now in like that sweet spot of, I know what I'm doing. We've figured out our services, and my team are just amazing. So I feel like I can just relax and sit back.
That does almost sound like the Holy Trinity. Like when you have the team around you, the offering around you that you know is right, and then almost like the confidence in yourself as well. That probably feels like an unstoppable little kind of triad of things you got there.
I'm kind of annoying right now. I feel really like top of my game. I think I've had imposter syndrome for quite a while, and now I'm like, oh no, I know what I'm doing.
How do you combat the spinning the plates like problem of, as you and your agency grow and there's only so many hours in a day or a week, of course having great people around you helps with that, but similarly, like, you can't make more hours in a day as you grow. So like, how did you combat that bit? Because I know we've definitely felt that as a thing. As you up capacity, you obviously need to become lean, more agile, delegate, all of those kind of things more and more.
I think that's the hardest, I think for everyone, the hardest thing to figure out. But I think last year, I just got to a place where I was near burnout again, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, I can't do that again. So I got to the point where I was like, if it's not gonna move the needle and it's not gonna cause destruction, it's not important. So like, if we don't do it and it doesn't, you know, the walls don't fall down, we're just not going to prioritize it. So it was a lot of saying no, a lot of saying not yet, or saying let me move this, lots of rescheduling last year. But it just made for just a bit more of a peaceful, stress-free to an extent environment, especially when you've got clients who, you know, some of them know what they're doing and it's fine, it's seamless. Some of them want more than what you can offer and make you bend over backwards. Some of them don't know what they want, and you know, you have to juggle all of these hats. So I think what I've really focused on is thinking, at the end of the day, we post pictures on the internet and videos now, but that is what we do. You know, sometimes it is saving lives to an extent, but generally it's just entertainment. So nothing's going to go wrong if, you know, you don't do something at 11 o'clock and you do it at 12, or if you don't do it on Thursday and you do it on Friday. Just relax. But as long as whatever you do it well. So that's what I've just tried to instill in my team. Like, okay, if you can't meet the deadline, that's fine. Communicate and get it done to the best, even better than what you even think you can do. Because we're not, you know, surgeons in the operating room.
You talk about kind of moving the needle, and I know that has two meanings. One, in terms of for you and your business, but I know that you also kind of mean like in what your business does, what you put your name to, how the industry is going to move. From a kind of 14-year lens and a 4, 5, 6-year lens, how have you seen the kind of influencer economy change, and particularly then, like, sort of almost like a sort of status check, like where do you think we are now in the sort of maturity of that influencer economy and where that might go from here? I know, a big question. I'm sorry.
Especially today after what happened on the weekend. So I'm kind of like, I don't know, no comment. So for context, I don't know when this is going to go out, but for context, over the weekend, TikTok went down for the US and then it came back. So I spent the weekend thinking, wow, what's going to happen? And then I was like, oh, maybe it's fine. So, so much has changed in the last 14 years. And I was talking to one of our creators that we manage last week for a strategy session. And we were saying how different new gen creators are compared to like the OGs. So at the beginning, we were doing it to build community. So it was literally young people generally online, mainly YouTube, posting videos to find people like them, to build their community. I remember I was on YouTube when I was in my 20s, when I was at university, but because I was lonely and I was trying to find people to like talk to about my interests. And then I moved to Spain for my year abroad, and I was even more lonely because I was in this little village where there was nobody my age, and it was really, really lonely. And I was just going to YouTube to find this community, and I found it. And that's what it was mainly about. And then we started to get invited to Fashion Week and like the BTS of, you know, what's going on with the makeup. And then we started, you know, getting invited to these events and getting gifted all these products. And it was really exciting. And there wasn't that much money being exchanged. It was very much community driven and opportunity. And a lot of us at that time wanted to be journalists. So it was like that step in the door where journalism was quite inaccessible for a lot of people, especially if you're working class. So it was that step in the door to get you to that place. And in the end, a lot of us didn't become journalists, and we ended up continuing being creators. But I think that's really interesting to look at that and then see where we are now, where we're paying tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands. I was watching, reading the comments of a TikTok over the weekend of one of the creators saying, okay, now we're leaving TikTok. Creators, let me know what was the highest amount you've ever been paid. And reading these comments, I was like, whoa. Some of them, it was like $400,000 for one Instagram post. And I was just like, wow. The amount of money that runs through our industry is actually quite gross.
Yeah, yeah. And often, and I think you're probably very similar to us, like we take a more data-driven approach, where actually often those kind of vanity creators, vanity payments don't add the value for the brand that the brand thinks they might, because actually they're making this binary connection of big creator and loads of followers and big amount of money, and then like that's their big play in the influencer space. And then we or you would go, well, actually, if you work with 10 smaller creators and you actually think about their performance, not just their follower count, and their kind of relationship with your brand, that becomes so much more valuable, and we can take a more data-driven approach to that campaign and think of it much more as a like media channel.
Exactly.
And that is so often not what's happening still. And I find that fascinating, that in that way it almost feels like there's still so much of the industry to learn sometimes, where you still see those kind of huge creators that we're looking at their engagement rate, it's like 0.4%. You're like, well, why are people throwing a bucket of money at them when actually don't even think their content's that sort of forward thinking and progressive either? I think some it's fascinating also the data and the insight that comes around people's trust in certain like pillars of marketing and sort of marketing channels, and you see still print and TV is trusted like the most, and then you end up on some scales influencers at the end. But then when you do like insight around people's connection to social and their connection specifically to creators, there's an amazing stat that I think it's 40 or 41% of people trust creators more than their best friends.
Wow.
And you're like, and it's like mind-bogglingly almost scary in that sense. But the power of connection between creators and an audience, you cannot ignore that. Yes, social as a whole is full of certain things, and that includes misinformation and whatever it might be, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. But if you know what you're doing in that medium and you know how to engage it with, especially younger audiences now are switched on and savvy to this. They build a social collateral, they build things that they're following, around their interests, and they know how to navigate it and they know what to look out for. Like that can become such a powerful thing that they are utterly connected to, and they do feel trusted in those certain individuals that they've built that relationship over time.
Yeah, and I think it also, well, that's a really good stat that I hadn't heard. But I also am that person thinking about, as you said it, I was like, yeah, I do actually trust a lot of influencers more than I would my friends. If I was looking for a specific product, this weekend I was looking for a specific hair product and a specific makeup product, and I didn't look to any of my friends for it. I sat for an hour going through TikTok and seeing, but it's because I visually can see that this person has used that. Like if it's a makeup product, let's say it's a foundation as an example, if their makeup looks flawless, I'm going to want to copy them, and I don't need to see them in real life to know that it looks good because I'm seeing it, on my phone. But it also spans race, it spans gender, it spans age. Like it goes, anyone can go to an influencer, a person of influence, and be excited by them. And I think I was talking to someone last week, and we were talking about B2B influencing, and I was just like, yeah, it exists, it's a thing. And I had to walk them through it, and it made me laugh because I was like, it's becoming even more of a thing than it has ever in the past, because everyone's got their own personal brands kind of evolving at the moment. But B2B influencer marketing has always been a thing. We've just never called it a thing. We've just been doing it for free. just been writing on LinkedIn for free, and now people are starting to be paid for it. But yeah, it's so interesting how influencer isn't, I feel like it's still just not taken seriously. But the thing I love most about influencer marketing is creators being able to transform their lives through influencer marketing in a way that you can't really see in any other industry. Anyone can be a creator, and you don't need to have the best equipment. You could be on an iPhone 7 if you need to be, or insert any smartphone, but you could be on anything that can record you, and you can still make a living from it. And it's just to do with your story that you have to tell and the way that you can tell that story. And I think there's something so powerful about that, of being able to be yourself on the internet and being paid to be you. It's like, where else can you do that?
Yeah. When you're looking now forward through to 2025, what do you think what are you excited about? What is on the horizon? What do you want to see in terms of change, both for yourself and in the industry?
Okay.
What you achieve?
I'm really excited for this year. I think this weekend specifically is very much shaken up the industry. I haven't spoken to you're the first industry person I've spoken to so far, so when we finish I want to have a chat. But I want to know, especially for the bigger agencies who are doing stuff in the US, because we're quite European focused, how are they feeling? What's going on? What's the plan? So I think seeing a platform just shut down has probably turned this industry on its head quite quickly, because it's not happened, but I don't think many of us thought TikTok was ever going to go. And then when it did, I was like, oh, and then it came back and I was like, oh yeah, fine. But I think that is going to spark some interesting conversations. And we've seen apps like Red Note pop up now for US and UK specifically, and we're kind of moving over there. I think we're probably not going to stay there for that long. And then there's some other apps that have popped up. So I'm excited to see what happens there, because there might just be a new app on the market. There might be one that sticks around as well, because we saw like Be Real, that didn't really stay for that long. So I'm interested to see there. I think YouTube is about to have a massive resurgence, because the amount of creators that in January have said, I'm going on to YouTube because they saw that TikTok was, disappearing. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. I'm really excited. We're releasing our pricing report in June this year around Cannes Lions Festival. So that will be quite exciting. And we will talk about that offline, because we've been talking about this literally for the last year.
We'll definitely do.
With TikTok now having a change, that's all I could think about this weekend. Like, what does pricing look like on TikTok if TikTok doesn't exist? Yeah. And, what pricing is needed? So I'm just really excited to see. I feel like I'm just sitting here with my popcorn. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen.
Because we can't have the answers.
No.
We don't. For example, the logic might say, well, TikTok prices will go down because the total viewable audience has gone down. But then does that mean that people are just going to shift onto like Insta, but then that puts prices up? But then, how does the industry feel about Meta right now, and is that pushing it down? All sorts of sort of nuanced things that almost create that fluctuation. And I think you're totally right. There is now this opportunity for a new app on the scene to grow massively, but also, like YouTube Shorts, if they get it right, you could see something like very dramatic happen as well.
I think so. And I think looking at Instagram this weekend, the like 360 changes that they had overnight, I'm kind of just like, chill out. This is a bit too much for me. And I logged in, I was like, this is a completely different app to what I logged into yesterday. It's kind of annoying. The thing about YouTube is it's never changed. No. It's looked the same.
It looks the same.
Well, they've tweaked it to make it a bit more modern, but it's looked the same. And they've introduced shorts, but they haven't made it annoying. It's just this like great, fully functioning extra that people are using that's performing really, really well. And it's really exciting. So I think YouTube is about to have they had their huge moment. 10 years ago, YouTube was everything. Now everyone still uses YouTube, but we don't see it as much in influencer marketing, I think. Everyone's all about TikTok. But I'm excited to see what this year does with YouTube, because I feel like they've moved, so people are ready to start posting.
You personally, as a creator, are you going to see that move more in that way as well?
Yeah, I am really excited about myself as a creator, because last year I didn't really do that much creator work because I was focusing on the business. And that was really needed. I think 2022 was like my big year. I did so much. And this year I'm kind of like, okay, I've got a really strong strategy that goes into effect in February, because January is a slow start. I'm not...
Drum roll
emoji.
Yeah.
No, we're coming to the end of this month, but I just don't want to stress myself out. But yeah, YouTube, we've got a podcast starting, SevenSix, so we'll be on YouTube. I personally have a segment in the podcast that is business influencer focused, so I'm really excited for that. And I have a project that I'm pitching at the moment, which is kind of a yearish long project around female founder and business owner empowerment that I'm really excited for. And I just think there's just so much opportunity, and it's about being creative with how you pitch. And I don't think I'm not pitching traditionally like I will do one Instagram post. It's very much community driven. And yeah, I can't tell you how excited I am for this year, but I'm also excited because I've kind of shifted how I move, and everything is just a lot slower and more intentional. Whereas naturally, because of how my brain is wired, I move super fast. So in the past, you've seen like report after report, and all these campaigns, all these things, marketing things happening in the background. This year, it's a very much less is more kind of year. But what we're doing, I am so excited for.
Awesome. I'm very excited to see it as well. If to kind of end, you've got many hats on, including the one you're wearing right now. Almost a piece of advice to the different audiences that are in your world for 2025 for success, if you don't mind. So I suppose audience number one, the creator, the individual. What one thing would you say is important for them to remember, cherish, do in 2025 that they might not have been thinking about in 2024?
I think my biggest thing, for all of them, is just create a strong strategy that is impactful, but also gives you something that will last. I think something I want to talk a lot about this year with creators is building a career and thinking about being an entrepreneur. And because I have a lot of creators that I know, they live like paycheck to paycheck, they get these big deals, and then after a month or so you're like, where's all that money gone? And it's like, have you saved it? Do you have a pension? Like, there's so many things. And I think I'm not a finance expert, and I never will pretend to be, because my journey there's been a lot of learning. But I think seeing what's available to creators, it worries me how so many young people are getting these large sums of money, and they're getting this like instant fame, and then one day it turns off. What's your next step? And do you have savings? So this is something that I keep thinking about with the creators that we work with, and with our creator clubs. That's one big advice. It's just create your strategy and treat yourself like a business.
Amazing. And then finally, to the brands, to the industry, we're both in this sort of pushing the inclusive mantle forward, as it were. What one piece of advice or learnings can you take forward, or push the brands that you work with to take forward into 2025?
Yeah, I think so many nuggets, but I think the big thing is thinking about why you're doing what you're doing and not focusing on what's hot right now, because I think this weekend is a perfect example of how something overnight can change. And we see that with creators being cancelled. We see that with creators just going offline for a year and maybe not coming back, or coming back and not having the same reach. You really need to think about the community that you're building and why you're trying to tap into them. And I think that goes beyond the numbers of how many followers they have and how many views they got on one specific video. It's like, what's the long-term conversation? So I think that falls into inclusivity quite heavily, because you might not be thinking about the right people, because what looks hot right now might not necessarily be actually what you need.
Boom. Great thing to end on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
we literally could have talked for
I feel really proud of us because
Yeah.
when we go on Zoom calls together, it's like a group of 4 and then it's just me and you chatting for at least 45 minutes. And then we're like, so what we actually want to talk about today is, and then we've got 15 minutes left.
But I mean, again, we'd love to have you back in the future.
Yes.
We'd love to see what happens in 2025. We'll link all your socially bits and stuff as well.
Thanks.
And you as an agency. So thank you so much for fighting a good fight in everything you do.
Thanks, back at you. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching the podcast. We also want to thank our friends at ID Studios, who so wonderfully host us for all of our podcasts. If you have any podcast needs yourself, we highly recommend them. Not only is their space inclusive, accessible, they are also just a great group of people. So please reach out and they will be more than happy to accommodate you.